So, as some of you might remember, this time last year, there was a lot of conversation and concern growing over BioWare's Anthem. Some of the complaints, some of the concerns, some of the fears, some of the nervous reactions came from the economy. As some of you might remember, I was very nervous about that. It was something that I definitely took issue with, and based on the leaks that we got at the time, there was reason to be concerned over Anthem's store. Now, in the coming months, there was a lot of controversy surrounding Anthem's store, but it wasn't as big of an issue as I honestly thought it could have been. And obviously, at that time, there was still a lot of concern after the whole Star Wars Battlefront 2 loot box debacle, and a lot of people wondering if Electronic Arts is going to try to pull more of that nonsense with the next huge live service release, and that was Anthem at the time. But additionally, there was also a lot of people mocking BioWare and Electronic Arts for the release schedule, something that a lot of people have been mocking not just Electronic Arts but Ubisoft for, in which, you can play the game early if you buy the deluxe edition. It's just a complicated mess with release schedules nowadays. Now, additionally, there was also some people taking concern with the live service part and the lack of conversation or story. It just didn't look very good, and honestly, what BioWare's Anthem ended up being was just a very mediocre experience. Critics and users, both alike, gave it a very mixed reception, and the game did not sell very well. This was a new franchise. It was supposed to be the huge looter-shooter live service. They had all kinds of content roadmapped, and what ended up happening at release was just chaos. The game was buggy, broken in many ways, and there was also a grind wall, which was intended to just pad out the length of the game, and on top of that, the story was very mediocre. Characters were boring in my opinion. Customization was alright. Then we also have the flying mechanics, the one part that I did enjoy. Enemy AI was a mess. Loot was again another huge issue. That was, for a looter shooter, this is probably the worst loot that I've ever seen. The open world was very boring. Mission structure was boring and repetitive. And overall, I think a lot of people walked away from the Anthem experience wondering, should BioWare just walk away from this and move on to Dragon Age, Mass Effect, or something else? Because this clearly was not where people wanted the studio headed towards. Really, in all honesty, modern day BioWare is not the same BioWare. They are different companies trying to fit into this live service age, and I will say they've done a very poor job at that, but I've made the same argument about modern day Blizzard. Activision has changed that company, and we're seeing that with Warcraft 3 Reforged, and we're going to keep on seeing that in the future, and I believe that we've seen that for the last number of years with BioWare. The point where things really started to fall apart was when the BioWare founders, the doctors, left in 2012, I believe right after the release of Mass Effect 3. They retired, and then that leadership, that culture change it has led to a downward spiral. And the first release where we could see that things were going wrong was Dragon Age Inquisition, but it really started to escalate with Mass Effect Andromeda, where key veteran staff left before release and then after release, and then a lot of people were like having hold your horses on BioWare, they'll be fine, Anthem's gonna come out, it's gonna blow people's minds, and guess what, it did not. Again, BioWare veteran staff left before release and after release. Although, to be fair, our minds were kinda blown by the incompetence of BioWare with everything that happened with Anthem, especially once that Kotaku inside report of the expose on the game's development. 7 years of development, the game really only exited pre-production after 5. Just so much mismanagement, so much poor leadership, and so many lies that were fed to us, including that E3 gameplay trailer, which was not representative of the actual experience that we would get a couple of years later. As was proven in the expose from Kotaku, it was pretty much faked. Even beyond just that, there were so many more lies to do with customization, all kinds of empty promises, and I mean, just looking back, this game has been a mess, and I question the future of this company, and I've always wondered when Electronic Arts could pull the plug. Only time will tell with that, but right now they are preparing for Anthem 2.0 or the Anthem Next. A lot of people are wondering, is this going to be a No Man's Sky story, Final Fantasy XIV, Destiny 2, and at this point, I don't know, because based on this letter coming from Casey Hudson, BioWare's GM, I don't really think that they have too much faith in this. I think that they're going to try to deliver a little bit more content, try to revamp the game, try to make people have a little bit more faith in them, but for Anthem, just Anthem as a game, it really is hard to see this huge comeback that I think everybody just expects with these live service disastrous games. But let's proceed to BioWare GM Casey Hudson's letter on the future of Anthem, which includes a huge overhaul, which, yes, if you remember, I reported this back in, I believe, September of last year. I was the first person, then Kotaku followed up with their own report a number of weeks later. But Casey Hudson says, 1 year ago, we were preparing to launch Anthem, a game that represented a big leap into new territory for us as a studio. Yeah, Anthem, a gameplay-focused experience, although I think a lot of people weren't very happy about that and still aren't happy about that. It was an exhilarating and terrifying experience to go out to the world with something new and different. And we are grateful to all the players who have come along with us on the journey. It has been a thrill for us to see the creativity of our players in designing customized javelins and watching them master Anthem's flying and fighting gameplay. I am so proud of the work the team has put into this game, and at the same time, there's so much more that we and you would have wanted from it. Over the last year, the team has worked hard to improve stability, performance, and general quality of life while delivering 3 seasons of new content and features, although remember, they canceled a lot of the other content that was planned. We have also heard your feedback that Anthem needs a more satisfying loot experience, better long-term progression, and a more fulfilling endgame. Same stuff that was said at release, but I guess it took them a year to realize that. So we recognize that there's still more fundamental work to be done to bring out the full potential of the experience, and it will require a more substantial reinvention than an update or expansion. Over the coming months, we will be focusing on a longer-term redesign of the experience, specifically working to reinvent the core gameplay loop with clear goals, motivating challenges, and progression with meaningful rewards, while preserving the fun of flying and fighting in a vast science fantasy setting. And to do that properly, we'll be doing something we'd like to have done more of the first time around, giving a focused team the time to test and iterate, focusing on gameplay first. Which I will say, for starters, it does call into question, are they just done with the story of Anthem and moving on to just focus solely on the gameplay experience? Because I think that's going to disappoint a lot of people, which were kind of hoping that the story would get more attention. But then again, the gameplay side of Anthem has always been a mess, so this kind of makes sense for them to just focus on that aspect. In the meantime, we will continue to run the current version of Anthem, but move away from full seasons as the team works towards the future of Anthem. We'll keep the game going with events, store refreshes, and revisiting past seasonal and Cataclysm content, starting with our anniversary towards the end of the month. And yeah, I think right now they still have Christmas decorations up. That just kind of shows you the state of the game. Creating new worlds is central to our studio mission, but it's not easy. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we miss. Well, you missed pretty big here. What keeps us going is the support from players like you. Your feedback gives us guidance on how we can improve, and your passion inspires us with the courage to create. I look forward to working together with your involvement and feedback towards the best possible future for Anthem. Signed, Casey Hudson. So furthermore, here's an actual interesting tidbit coming from Kotaku's Jason Schreier, who has written the pretty much exposés on BioWare's Anthem. He said, "No way to know whether Anthem 2.0 will be as successful as previous overhauls of failed live games. What a trend this is," and yes, what a trend. "But one thing I do know is that a lot of people have left developer BioWare Austin for neighboring studios over the past year." So yes, again, more BioWare veteran staff is departing from this once beloved studio. We saw this last year where key Anthem staff were jumping ship. That included Anthem lead producer Ben Irving, and then BioWare's head of live services Chad Robertson. They have all left, and what follows is obviously a lot of other developers. They're jumping ship because they obviously don't feel very confident in the future of this developer, and I can't blame them. With a lot of failure across the board, you just have to wonder if Electronic Arts is eventually going to do what they always do, which is, end studios or a lot of firings. It's the worst part of this AAA gaming industry, but that's the reputation that EA has rightfully earned. Now, looking back again at that response or statement coming from BioWare's GM Casey Hudson, there are a few things that I find very interesting. One, there was no conversation, no mention at all about Anthem's story, so I guess forget about that at least for now. And then there's also the fact that there was no timetable for release for whatever this is going to be called. Anthem 2.0, Anthem Next, Anthem whatever. We have no timetable. And if it's going to be coming later this year, the question now becomes, is this going to be something that people even care to get back into, even if it is good? There's a lot of giant releases coming this year. The Last of Us Part 2, Doom Eternal, Watch Dogs Legion, the next Assassin's Creed game, Cyberpunk 2077, Ghost of Tsushima, and a number of other games, Final Fantasy VII Remake, the Avengers game. It goes on and on. And that's my question. Are people even going to give a crap to get back into this? It seems like this is a trend. It really is. Jason Schreier said that. He said it right. All of these live services end up having these little relaunches of sort. Fallout 76 has its own coming a couple of months from now with Wastelanders, and I guess Anthem will have it with whatever they're going to call it, maybe Anthem 2.0. But for what it's worth, Electronic Arts, the actual publisher, has been very quiet on Anthem. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, maybe I did, but we have not heard anything from them about Anthem, their thoughts on Anthem, since June of 2019, where EA CEO said, well, he admitted that Anthem was not working well, but he was going to stick with it and stick with BioWare. And interestingly, they had a recent investor call, and they did not mention anything about BioWare, nothing to do with Anthem, so it is reasonable to speculate that this is probably going to be coming in the second half of 2020, and after that, we'll see if there is a future. And I'm guessing that EA and BioWare are probably going to get this out the door, see how it does, maybe people will return, maybe they won't, and if they don't, this is probably when they'll just decide to finally move on from Anthem and give all of the attention on Dragon Age 4. And even right now, there's a lot of people saying that maybe BioWare should just move on from Anthem. That was a giant mistake, and try to give their all with Dragon Age 4 or whatever else they have planned. There's been rumors about a KOTOR remake, so maybe give all the attention to that. But now heading to Kotaku, Jason Schreier's inside report on Anthem's Overhaul. This came in November. He said the reality is that BioWare is still putting a lot of work into Anthem. Details on Anthem Next are hazy, but among other things, the game developers are planning to overhaul the loot, the quest, the social aspects of the game, the difficulty, the progression system, and the world map. One person in the project said they're planning to change the game's entire structure. And he would furthermore say, with so much in the air, it's impossible to know what will and won't change, but it's safe to say that Anthem won't suddenly transform into a brand new franchise. We still expect to see Freelancer, Mercenary, Shaper artifacts, Javelin, exosuits, and all of the other core ideas that the game has established. BioWare's plan is to zoom out and overhaul the gameplay systems that most players have agreed do not work. How and when this plan will come to fruition remains to be seen, and here, even with this official confirmation, we still have no idea. But it is very interesting that the original idea with Anthem was that this was going to be a 10-year journey. You haven't heard that before, have you? I think we have. These looter shooters, man, these looter shooters. But with Anthem, I still don't have any faith that there is a future beyond this. We'll have to see. It probably really depends on numbers, which right now the game is practically dead, nobody playing it at all. But I will say that I find it very interesting that now, 1 year later, we have BioWare's GM, Casey Hudson, admitting, yeah, we pretty much screwed up on a lot of the aspects of this experience, but now we're going to try to fix it. As the saying goes, it may be too little too late, and I guess we're going to find out that sometime in the future. It doesn't sound like it's going to be anytime soon though. But yeah, in conclusion, the concerns surrounding BioWare are still very, very real, and with this Anthem overhaul, it doesn't give me any bit more faith that Anthem does indeed have a future. It just seems like they're going to fix up the gameplay systems and how they get players to return, especially during a very busy 2020 in terms of gaming releases. I have no idea, but time will definitely tell. Anyway, what do you guys make of Anthem, and what do you make of an Anthem comeback? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games, and again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.